New York for the 2020 SRF loans. It is okay, and they were gonna relay that to the bank that they're only expected to see that 59 and some change for the next 6 months. That one, that's it. They won't see anything.
They're only gonna see 54 in January 1st.
Yeah,
January 1st is number 54.
No, that's monthly. 59 a month for 6 months, and then 54 a month for 6 months. Yeah, that's a monthly, not a one-off. And we have to pay $35,000 in debt service every month too, which is not included on that piece of paper. It's in here something, right here. So there's your debt service schedule. And that will be every month until 24. 35. That amount never changes. So all this documentation also came through that office and wasn't relayed to anyone, which is why we missed our first payment of July 31st. They called the clerk treasurer's office last Tuesday, and that office said they didn't know anything about it, and so they had to call me, which was the right call, because obviously there has to be utility. So.
Yes, no, I have not. Right. Well, I don't know. Did you email us?
I think I did, yeah.
Okay,
It was all in that big packet.
Oh, okay. With the bills? With the invoices?
That was a separate email.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. I'll have it. So, next question from you. The water line is through, and we've got to turn around and start this immediately with the water. And there has been no, let's say, rate increase for 2 to 3 months to build up more. By the time we close, I mean, you know, we're gonna get our, but it's not gonna be engineering fees and all that back, yeah. And the state reform meeting. So we still got some payments out there. So the sooner that we get the rate increase implemented, the better off we're gonna be. That's our,
And we'll probably have debt service, I'm assuming, if it's gonna get with SRF, two different payments. Because Becky's gonna have to do 2 different claims every month. For this, which they are due and they have to be posted to our account by the 31st of every month, which is why on claims you see pre-written for the August payment as well as the July payment. And you should key in. She actually overnighted those last Thursday, and they got to the bank on Friday. So we are up to date through August. Which will lead me to my next question. How would you guys feel about setting up an ACH? That way they don't need to come to the first meeting of the month or be pre-written for the second meeting. We can have them as a standard claim at the second meeting and they can be paid. They get posted pretty much immediately later on. Or they can come as a standard check the first of the month. The clerk treasurer's office doesn't have a problem with ACH. I talked to her about that. That would be up to you guys.
Yeah, obviously, when these are all set up, you guys well, when this whole payment thing came up, I was furious, and Andrew and I don't know how long we talked, and all the conversations I had with SRF, we had a meeting in downtown Indianapolis, they never once mentioned
in at all.
Really, it shouldn't be done. It should be really done.
That's true.
Well, I
That's
can,
true.
so, if you wanna go with more with reading?
I don't know what this-
Well, so our payments that we are making, those transfers, over the next 6 months, we're actually overfunding the first payment by $84,000. Every month we transfer money for the next 6 months, we're overfunding by $13,000. I don't know. But you know what we can't do with that money? We can't make an additional principal payment. So this money is just gonna sit in that bank account until 2040, when it gets to $1.6 million, and we get I'm assuming our money back.
What is that on the number that we have to,
Bond or whatever.
So that's the 35 you're paying. That's already being transferred. That 35 is your debt service. utility. This is on your standard, that 59,000 for the 6 months, and then the 54 for the next 6 months or whatever. That's, you have a surplus on that, not the 35,000.
35,000 is to make the last payment the last year. That's what the debt reserve is. Because that's the way, on a true bond,
What's the
We got to set so much aside.
what's the quantity on the 35,000? That's, wait. So we hit our debt service mark on in 2025, which is $700 more than the final payment. Yeah. So I guess, yes. That could probably come out of that.
that's right.
But this payment here, the monthly transfer that we met, like one of the payments that we missed the first time, that is $13,000 more than what it needs to be every month.
We can't get that changed.
Well, I tried getting a hold of Reedy to ask the question, and I don't hear anything back.
All right, we'll get together, we'll talk all tomorrow.
That's gonna be better than the meeting.
Or calling up your meeting person.
Because by the end of the,
They'll just start this without it.
We don't need to pay it.
by the time that we're done in 2040, that will have a balance, that surplus every month will be $1.6 million. I have a spreadsheet I can send you.
I think really knows the explanation of why they did that. We'll go out, we'll have on what it, and it makes sense for prepay.
Well, if you can't make a payment, it's never, so from the IFA, you can't make any additional principal payments. So it's not like you can even put that surplus to use.
Yeah.
And pay the loan down faster.
Yeah.
And we can't make any partial annual payments. If that surplus ever got to a point where it equaled the payment, you could pay it. But by the time we get to 2040, our annual payment is $2.1 million. And we never, it's 1.6 is surplus, so we never hit that mark where we can use that money to pay full payment. So my assumption is we get that back because it's ours, but
Whole topic is for beauty topic.
I sent them an email. I sent Caitlin Shaver an email, but
Somebody had their bank account on it.
We'll call it tomorrow. If not, we'll call,
Stay with you.
one.
Okay.
Well, we'll get
Like good news?
July's reconciled. It's not closed yet, but it's reconciled.
Do we get a 6-month accounting going back several years? Compared to-
Do we have the comparison yet?
No.
Not
You're
sorry,
right.
Rick, but you don't have that. We've been working on that, but then he's gotten tied up on this.
Oh, okay.
All right,
I haven't,
next meeting, you'll have.
I have been working on just this year's and getting it all like visually, like the numbers are there. I've just been trying to make it look nice to look at. But then I got, no, I called my head Tuesday and that's what I did. So,
That's my question.
yeah, sorry.
We look forward to the next meeting.
That's it?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Oh, no. The support calls. We have, Stacy, Todd, Shane, and I have been meeting with, Steve, is that his name?
Yes.
From Tyler. So you were in the first meeting, and then we met with him since, at least one time, right?
Yeah, this was last Thursday.
This was, for this fast talking to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and they had a really good update. Most everything from the original 20 that we had sent them have been either closed or escalated and are being worked on. Since that time, there was a minor update that got downloaded that caused some more problems. But they are aware of all those, and those are also being worked on as well.
There are dashboard.
Yes, yes. And so, I feel like we're making good progress. We are gonna set up another call, right, we met with them last week. Yeah. So we will be meeting with him again. And I feel like until it gets resolved, that'll probably maybe be the norm. Just to make sure that we're being heard and we understand where they are at.
We did say that until our list is clear, he wants to continue to meet, so.
Yeah.
So he's not driving along.
But I do feel like we make very, very good progress with it. I still have those checks in too. So if you guys want me to send them off, let me know.
Or would we expect any written summary of what we've knocked off the list and as a board to look at? Is there something you can give us that says, we got 18, we got 7, 2 came in? Here's the nature of the symptoms.
I can,
Here's what the dashboard looks like.
you can work on something like that. Yeah.
I don't need for you to make something special, but if you've got a dashboard.
Well, I have the dashboard.
It might be a big section board, since we've all
Yeah, absolutely.
harangued about this around our neck.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. I think that's all.
Okay. Stacy, you're up and probably one of the more critical things that you have to present to us for maybe your time, so your time.
I have given you all a letter, Mike asked me, I think, to type something up to put on out to media and on Facebook that basically was understandable for everyone. So I typed up and gave you each a copy of it. If you are okay with that, then we just need to get one copy signed by everyone so that you can post on Facebook and we can release it to the media. But basically, it's just stating that we can start disconnects again on September 14th and asking our customers to come in before that date to set up payment plans. And then, letting them know that at 10 a.m. on the 14th, if they have not set up a payment plan, and they have not paid, that they would be disconnected, and then no fees would be charged until October 14th.
This complies with what the IURC has asked people to do. I asked her to put it in, you also saw a resolution, and that's not what people want to read. They want to read anything. They want to read something short and precise. So that's why I asked Stacy to put this together. So one, I think probably we'll go now to the resolution, because once if we pass the resolution, then this letter or this notice can be issued.
Well, I have some comments on those. come back to
when
them.
we get to that.
Okay.
Mike had a question on that also.
Okay, but we're gonna do the resolution first, then we'll come back to the letter.
Okay.
Okay. So let me test this out. So what the resolution does is basically it lays out exactly what we're gonna do with regard to billing now that the moratorium has been lifted. Our meeting minutes from when we discussed this previously said that we would begin shut off 1 month from the date that the prohibition ended. So Stacy, one thing to note, I have in the resolution that it'd be September 15th, not 14th, because the moratorium continues through the 14th, so it would be 1 month from the 15th. So we might just want to like go through the letter and make sure that all the dates match. So Same thing with penalties, and it would be October well, 15th. penalties are 60 days, and since August has 31 days, it's actually the 14th. Okay, but anytime it's a month, it's the 15th, and anytime it's a number of days, it's the 14th. So that's a little weird. But so the first thing is that you all decided that we would not disconnect for 1 month after the moratorium ended. So that will be September 15th, 2020. Any account holder who is not current with their bills may enter into a payment agreement for a period of 60 days. So we have to offer payment plans up to 60 days for the IURC. So that 60-day period ends October 14th, 2020. Now we can disconnect before, like if they haven't made a payment plan, we could disconnect them theoretically before October 14th. But we just have to make that available to them through the 14th of October.
That's something that-
Mhm.
We're talking about a payment plan, maybe signed agreement.
Mhm.
And the date of that is October 14th.
We have to give them the option to create a payment agreement up through October 14th.
So
So,
the letter has a date of September 14th.
yes, so we can start doing disconnects. We all agreed that we would start doing disconnects 1 month after the moratorium ended. So that is September 15th. If they do not set up a payment plan by that date, then they could be disconnected. But if they say, wait, I need to set up a payment plan, they can technically do that through the 14th of October. But if they just don't set up a payment plan, I don't want to pay my bills and I don't want to set up a payment plan, we can still disconnect them after the 15th of September. So that's kind of, we just need to leave that window of payment plans open for 60 days.
So if they do not set a payment plan before September 14th, we disconnect them, and then they come and go, wait, they disconnected me. At that point in time, we can say, okay, then you need to set up a payment plan.
Yes.
And we can require them to make a payment at that time,
Yes.
and then 5 months thereafter.
Yes, we just have to leave the window open for payment plans for 60 days. So if they don't make one, we can disconnect them, but at that point, they would have the opportunity, they can still make it. After October 14th, what I put is that it's up to the discretion of the board as to whether or not they want to continue to make payment plans. So if somebody just doesn't make a payment plan, they don't care, their utilities are shut off, whatever, and they come in on October 16th, at that point, the board would have to decide whether or not they wanted to continue to accept payment plans. So, the next part is that, we have to give them up to 6 months to get their account current. So that was for the IURC. And then we decided that we wanted to create a panel consisting of a board member, a general manager, and Stacy. So Todd, Stacy, and a board member to make determinations for account holders who have entered a payment agreement, but then default on that payment agreement. So I set up a payment plan, I make the first payment, I miss the second payment, I'm going to be disconnected. They get the opportunity, if they request it, to show up in front of this panel. And then the panel can decide what they need to do in order to not be disconnected. And if they keep showing up, the panel can say, too bad, you're being disconnected. But that's an option that we've created.
If they have not entered into a payment agreement, then they will be disconnected just like they normally would. So if they don't enter into a payment agreement, or they were good up until, October, and then they stop paying, just like any other normal disconnection, they can still be disconnected. They're going to receive the same notice as they always have, except for a few days prior to disconnection, they will get a door knocker. For residential account holders, all reconnection fees, disconnection fees, deposits, and late fees are waived for a period of 60 days, which would be October 14th, and that is per the IURC. They issued a ruling that said that we're not allowed to collect any of those fees or the deposit for the period of 60 days, and that is pretty much the gist of it. Any questions?
One question I had was when we talked about the panel.
Mhm.
We couldn't come to the panel when we're done. One time visit, is that correct?
Well, I passed out before, and this was a couple of meetings ago, but panel procedures, here, I've got a copy, if you wanna pass that to Joe. And what the panel procedures say, these are the guidelines kind of for the panel, and what they get to do, is it's only people who have entered into a valid, payment agreement, and they have to request a panel meeting, before, they are disconnected.
48
Mhm.
48 hours, I think it said before.
Mhm. 40,
And
yeah.
then,
Yeah.
Pass that out to some kind of-
Mhm. It was several meetings ago, like back in May.
I've never done this, I just didn't remember all the,
Yeah, it's weird. You know, it's all, because we thought it was ended, but July.
Mhm.
So,
Right, and so, pursuant to this, what we had talked about before, is I don't think we had put a limit on the number of times they could appear, but essentially what the board kind of talked about was that if they show up twice, then the panel can say, well, we've decided we're gonna disconnect you, you've already been here before, but that they would have the opportunity to come before the panel multiple times. So I don't have anything in there, but I can change that if you want. But what my understanding was that there might be a circumstance where someone might get behind and then they're really trying and then they get behind again and you wouldn't necessarily want to shut them off. But then there's a circumstance where someone just blatantly isn't paying and you may. So we left it kind of open to the panel's discretion on whether or not they would.
So one of the questions I wanted to talk to you afterwards actually has to do with the scheduling. So it says that, a meeting after we receive the handwritten note from them, that we need to schedule, a meeting as soon as possible by the panel. But it also says that once we give them the meeting date, that they have, 48 hours to give us written notice that they cannot come to that meeting. So I guess in saying that we need to schedule it as soon as possible, you can't schedule it any sooner than 48 hours.
Probably not. And the reason I did that is because you want to make sure that you give people plenty of time to be able to get a babysitter or appear or whatever.
Right.
So that's why I put that timeline in there. The other thing was I wanted to make sure that people weren't abusing the system forever, which is why I said that they can reschedule it one time and that's it. But yeah, so I didn't want to put it so stringent that we're going to schedule it for the very next day and they couldn't get a babysitter, they couldn't get off work, and then they try and reschedule it, and again, they couldn't get a babysitter, they couldn't get off work. So that's why I put that time frame. But again, all of this can be changed. This was just something that I came up with.
Okay, and then also, it says we have to notify them of the time, date, and place.
Mhm.
Can this be by email and we're sending them a door knocker, or do we have to send it through the mail?
I'm
So
fine
I'm
with,
just thinking if we send them an email, they're gonna get it much quicker than if we send it through.
I don't care as long as it's in writing, so we have a paper trail.
Okay,
As long as there's a paper trail, and then what we should do is we should mark on it, like when I send a letter via email, I would put at the top, sent via email to this email address. So I've got a paper trail of what I did.
if we're doing it via door knocker, delivered on da day, and we just need to put it in the file.
Okay.
So I don't really care as long as it's in writing.
And then the last thing I had is you have down there that we also have up to 5 business days before making a decision. But are we actually able to make a decision at that time?
Yes, you can. But what you should do is you can give them like an oral decision, but then you want to follow up in writing again, so we've got a paper trail.
Okay.
We just want to make sure that we have a record of every contact we have with them, so that if they come back later, we can say, well, we had the panel meeting and this was the decision and this is the reason why they made the decision they made. And so you can give them your decision at that time, but then follow up in writing, and then you have 5 days to follow up.
Should there not be some kind of a set agenda as far as the documentation of the panel? Doesn't make sense for them to come and say, I just can't pay my bill, we need to have some documentation on finances. and things along those lines.
I mean, you can request that, and when you set the time, you can tell them what documents to bring. Like when you give them the notice of when the panel meeting is, whatever the panel wants to see, you can ask them for that information. I didn't put anything specific in there because I didn't know exactly what you would want to see. I didn't know if you wanted, and I didn't know if people would have that documentation.
And that might be hard to do, just knowing the reasons of disconnects. Now, someone it may have been, they were in the hospital. And someone else, it may be that they lost their job. So to set a required amount or a required set of criteria, you know, I think just what you had by bringing your own documentation, it should be their responsibility to bring whatever they want to support their case, whether they're in the hospital, bring us up a note from the hospital. You know, if they lost their job, show your unemployment.
I mean,
agree.
the challenge,
We're thinking the same line, I just
Yeah.
see somebody show up and say, well, I didn't know I was supposed to bring anything.
Well, it says right there on those procedures that they need to bring documentation.
and what I would probably do is I'd probably just make a copy of this, and when you send them the notice, just send them a copy of this, and they have what is expected of them and what's expected of the panel, so they know what to expect. That was kind of what my intention was. The problem is, anytime you have a situation like this, a lot of the decisions are gonna be, I mean, it's all at the discretion of the panel. So you can get a person who you feel really bad for, who's coming in with 4 kids, and you're like, oh my gosh, like they're not eating because they're paying their electric bill. We want to give them a little grace. And they may not have any documentation. So by setting a hard and fast rule, it kind of makes it difficult because it binds the panel. And I think it really needs to be a case by case basis. And that's why we decided to do the panel instead of just setting a bunch of hard and fast rules. Other
Okay.
questions?
We're talking about the resolution first. Any other questions on the resolution? Someone making a motion to adopt resolution 2020-08-17-01. Joe Ruth, make a motion to pass resolution 2020-08-17-01. A second?
Second.
Mike Reader, second. Roll call.
Rick Higgins,
Aye.
Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Joe Root,
Aye.
Keith Brewer, Mike Kelly.
Aye. Next item, the letter that's, or the announcement, I guess, would be more proper, with the changes of, that are necessary for the date of the 15th, which we'll have to get a new one out.
Yes.
And then Rick, I know you had questions about that, and I think Joe did, so we'll go to Rick first.
Number one, I appreciate the effort. I think the signatories to this should be Todd and Stacy. To me, this is an operational procedure, notification to our customers. I don't see a need or a benefit of each of the board members signing this letter. But that's item one. Item two, in the top line, I'd like it to read concerning utility disconnects versus concerning disconnect. I don't see the date of October 14th mentioned in the text, so I think that should be explained.
The third, the
third paragraph.
Well, when we say in the third paragraph, all late penalties and fees will resume on October 14th, that doesn't really tell me anything. In paragraph 11, we're talking about past due payments. And let's have a plan so you avoid being disconnected. You explain it pretty well in that second paragraph, but the third paragraph to me doesn't explain what we're trying to say about penalties and fees. You just said they're resuming on October 14th. I don't know what to make of that. And then lastly, in the second paragraph, I'd like to be a little more specific. It says in the second sentence of the second paragraph, all past due payments must be taken care of before. I think it should say must be paid in full. It's taken care of. I can interpret that any way I want.
Yeah, but you're also offering a payment plan, so that's making sure that they're being taken care of. So
The second thing I really had to
it doesn't
think,
necessarily have to
I'm
be
totally
paid.
agree, so let's say what we need. Let's say that.
It is saying that there, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't say past due payments must be paid in full or a payment plan must be entered into. It doesn't say that. It says must be taken care of. So, I just think we're pretty close to this, but those are my comments. Not really clear. And if you're fine with it, I guess go with it. But,
Well, if you read on, it says if you are unable to make a full payment, we are offering 6-month payment plans. I think if you read through the whole thing, it's explained, but we can do whatever you want, the board wants, but if you read through the whole thing, I think it's being explained pretty well.
okay, we disagree. That's fine.
I think probably what will happen is that people see this. The purpose of this is to, one, let people know that the rules are changed. And two, that there's a method for them to fix it. To stimulate contact with the billing office on how to get this accomplished. And that's one of the reasons that when I started this tonight, I said we wanted to try to eliminate as much of the language in it as possible. Because people will, there's 7 or 8 people in here, we all read this, and all read something different into it.
Why attorneys have jobs.
Yes, should we take out a lot of words and just say, if you have a past due amount, please contact the billing office.
We read the one I wrote.
Okay. Well, you got every, all right.
I was just thinking for Facebook, but when it says in headline, FMU disconnection of services to resume. When disconnections could begin. Frankfurt Municipal Utilities disconnect procedure will begin September 14th. Headline, payment plan available. A 6-month plan will be available to customers who have received disconnection notices and have not already cleared the account. How to set up the plan. Call the Franklin Utility Billing Office at 765-659-3360 for an appointment to make application for the payment plan.
I like that. Is that a different version than this one? One or the other, or?
That's all.
Maybe both?
That's all it is.
Okay,
I know I wanted something, I wanted to make it more abbreviated because I want it all to show on one screen on Facebook. So,
well, to me, that says what you said. But I'm just one person here, so you guys speak up. To me, central is better.
I can see this one being an addition to the, or a is stuck in the middle or somewhere where, well, we don't. Can we go into the ones that get disconnect notices only? They do maybe need a little more detail than what was there, but just for the general public,
As long as we don't have another insert going on.
you know, I kind of plagiarized it because every utility company in central Indiana put the same almost thing in the star on Saturday. Veteran, Indiana Public, all, Con Ed, I don't know who all did it, but they all did it. Almost every one of them had the same thing. But they wanted the public to know that it's happening.
So regarding this draft letter, does anyone want their name on here besides Todd and Stacy? Pardon?
I think all,
Including us?
I don't think concepts. Policy, I think we
I mean,
say.
the people that's gonna catch the heat, everybody's on the bottom. We're the ones that are passing this, okay, whatever we do.
That's why, go ahead. Okay,
You know, not just them two, we can catch all one of those.
okay.
I'm sure that, also, how many disconnect are we talking?
for the 37.
137, yeah. The last time I didn't get a chance to run it today, but I can run it tomorrow and need it for sure.
That's
It
close,
was like that.
that's close.
You said
Another meeting, 431, September 14th, we want 437 people lined up to show up.
They did have that in there.
Not be better to have, I know it says call for appointment. We should be having there something about call for appointment before, maybe 7 days before or something, so that we don't get overloaded.
Oh, it doesn't matter what you go, they're gonna, if these people have been waiting this long to pay their bill, they're gonna wait for the last. minute.
Honestly, we're gonna have to line up the door at 10:15 on September 15th and have them set up, so. that's what we do.
All right. Okay, I just thought that was an option in there. Second thing was that we you know, there before Salvation Army. Should that be something that these people feel about?
I mean, if they call in, those are all
Numbers.
places that we give them. I mean, that's to help them go and get assistance before they even come in, so that if Area 4 can help them and make a pledge to their bill, that's just less they have to put on their payment plan. So it's just giving them information ahead of time, but if you don't put it on there, if they take it on there.
I don't care, I agree with the comment because there's other places too, the ministerial association, and different churches also. Have a, you know, I need to do it.
Well,
So these three,
we often give that as well, but I had one church, like maybe last week, say something to us about why are we telling people to come to them before they're going to these other places, but they need to go to these other places first. And we don't tell people to go to them first, we give them all of them at once, and who they decide to call is up to them. So I left them off.
All right.
Rick, or, I'm sorry, Joe, sorry, yeah, from the direct. Also, Center Township generally will send people to different organizations. So if they do go to Center Township, they have a list of all the different organizations that they can go to for utility relief. And they'll basically give them a list of, okay, you have this need, here are the different organizations that can help you. And some of the nonprofits have Center Township vet them first before they will give them any assistance. So at the very least, I think Center Township would probably welcome them to be listed on there. I can't speak to the
And
other ones.
I may want to take the Salvation Army off of here because they are one that I know they will not give funds unless the customer has gone to Center Township first. They have to go through them before Salvation Army will.
Center Township has kind of started to serve as like a gatekeeper sort of, and they will then list off who should have relief of he can offer assistance for different things.
Okay. So we're to the point of authorizing the release of this information through the two means that we talked about, the letter and just the brief, the synopsis that would appear on social media. I don't think we need a motion, but if you feel you better off if we had a motion, because, and this letter, the one that goes out has all the signatures of the board people on it. I'm open to suggestions, or is it just by consensus, we'll do it?
Well, I've got a question.
Okay.
I think Joe had a very good point. As I read this letter, and I heard the reply from Todd Stacy, I can envision a couple hundred people showing up at the billing office September 14th. And I think we're just asking for trouble. I think at a minimum, if you ignore all the other heads that I'd like to see done, and that's fine. Contact the billing office to set an appointment. Needs to be in there.
I think if, I would agree to this if we took the Salvation Army out and cleaned up what you guys already stated.
And is this for residential customers? All customers?
I think it does resort, the IURC just says for residential, doesn't it?
Well, the IURC says residential for the penalties and deposits. I'm not sure about what it says as far as offering a payment plan. I'm not sure if, it did not make that clear in its order whether or not that was for everybody. It did specifically lay out residential for the fees, but, not for the payment plans. My understanding was that was everybody.
Okay, let me ask this question. For payment plans, does that go along for landlords?
What do you mean by that?
Some people pay their rent and their utility bills, all of their rent, and the landlords haven't been paying their utility bills. If they
Well-
haven't been collecting rent, now does that fall under the same thing to offer landlords payment things too?
I mean, I would think so, because my understanding was, and I can look into this further, but my understanding was that they really only laid out residential only for the late fees and the deposits, not for the payment plan. I mean, I don't know that they intended it that way, but they specifically said this applies to residential only. And they did not say that with regard to the payment plan.
I will say that the landlord that has that agreement is on a residential, it's not a commercial account.
Okay.
I mean,
It would depend on the number of units.
Yeah.
And the property that's used.
Under four, is still resident, or four under, I think.
So this is for residential, commercial or anything else, don't
So
get a
that's,
payment plan
that's
option?
what Alicia was saying, is she's not 100% sure.
the way that I interpreted it from the IURC, they specifically said that for the late fees and the penalties, this applied to only residential customers. But it did not say residential only for the payment plan. And it did not say residential only, like throughout the disconnect moratorium, it didn't say that for residential only. That applies to everybody. So I am assuming, though I cannot be 100% sure, that the payment plan was intended for everybody, but the late penalties, deposits, that sort of thing was only intended for residential. Because they
Isn't the
specifically
goal
said
to get payment, whether we get it over 6 months or
I,
1 month?
I personally feel that a lot of our businesses are struggling. I think if we can help them with payment plan, I think we should do a part of feasibility. That's something that everybody needs to talk about.
Well, one time when I was in Stacy's office and she ran this report, there's no commercial properties or businesses that are behind on the payment. It's all residential.
There's a couple businesses, but no commercial.
Yeah.
It's, and a lot of them are
I'm gonna go back to what Todd said there. Say the people that are renting this house are paying their rent, but the guy that owns it is not paying. Because he's needing to use part of that money to make his bank loan payments. So then, do you still disconnect? They're doing their job.
It's something we struggle with every day. Even without the COVID situation, it's something that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. Wait, then I pay my rent, well, the landlord has to pay us. And it's just-
We have something maybe for that panel.
And I don't think they don't do anything about that.
Yeah, you can't do nothing about that. It's a-
For,
We're gonna have to disconnect them.
Right, but it would be the landlord that would.
Landlord is coming to the panel, not the.
Right.
Yeah.
but the thing with the landlord though, if the landlord is the one that's not paying, worst case scenario, they don't pay, they either get disconnected and then they get sued by their tenants, or we file a suit against them for payment, that they haven't paid, and then we can get a judgment on the real estate. So I mean, at one point or another, we will end up getting paid if it's the landlord. If it's a tenant, the problem is we can't get, I mean, there's no real estate because they're renting. So, I mean, at some point, but what the IURC's, order said was that, it does not specifically, I just opened it up and reread it. It does not specifically lay out, for the payment plan that it's only residential. It just says customers.
Honestly, it would be easier just to allow for everyone. That's, I mean, for my staff and everyone, and people being angry in the office, it would just be easier to allow for everyone. You give everyone the same opportunity.
Okay. These two methods of communication, by consensus, or does someone want to make a recommendation?
We'll make a motion.
Okay, so we'll make some motion that we,
Then we proceed with the letter, and also the Facebook post.
okay, a second.
I'm not sure what the letter can say, so I'm gonna abstain.
I'll second.
A motion and a second by Mike Reader.
You want to add to that after the letter is approved? That's actually.
I lost track of what we're gonna change, if anything, so,
So we're taking out the Salvation Army for one,
okay,
changing the dates to the 15th to be changed.
okay. Are we asking the customer to set up an appointment or not?
Yeah,
We are,
it's in there.
it is in there. It will be in there. Okay, I can find that.
All right. Roll call.
Rick Engel,
Aye.
Mike Reader,
Aye.
Joe Root, Kip Brewer, Mike Kelly.
Aye. All right. One more. And you can, you all are aware of the payment plan contract. This was also distributed a few weeks back. Lisa, were you involved in?
Yeah, Stacy and I worked together to draft it. Essentially, it basically just provides they need to pay the payment plan, and then it provides that if they don't follow the payment plan, that they could be sued and what the implications of that will be. Anything
So-
to add
We're okay with that?
We actually already have people set up with that payment plan, so.
Good.
Can't change.
You can, but those two people are going to be.
Yeah.
My recollection was that we kind of approved the payment plan before.
Well, I think we did actually what we did on June 1st, but it didn't have the dates.
Right,
So we have to insert the dates into
Right.
these documents now.
and then I would like us to adopt the panel procedure, though. that was just the guidelines for the panel and how they're gonna proceed with, disconnect.
Did we already adopt that?
Well, we talked about it, but I don't remember whether or not we adopted it.
Because we didn't have it yet.
I'll make a motion that we adopt, the COVID-19
Panel procedures.
panel procedure.
I will second. Approved motion.
All right, roll call.
Joe Ruth,
Aye.
Rick Goodman,
Aye.
Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Kent Brewer,
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye. On that, on the, title page of that, way to put the date of today on there. All right. Okay. Anything else, Stacy?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I did today, contacted Eunice and I scheduled a training day. I scheduled it out for November so we could kind of get through all this. They'll be coming to help us go over the, basically the bad debt procedures that we haven't been able to do since we've been on Eunice. So that we can get caught on that, we haven't brought that forward since the 2014 bad debt that we brought to you in 2015 is the last time. So I've got that scheduled for November to have someone come and train with that, or it'll be a web thing that they'll show us how to do that and we can get back on track with bad debt.
Okay, and credit card payments are being processed now.
Credit card, the website is back up and going and it's been doing well. Less problems now than we had before. It was Paymantis that was the problem.
The other thing is currently the after hours Dropbox is malfunctioning.
It is not, we do close it, it's not dropping the payments. So we actually have, ordered a new Dropbox, it's almost like a mailbox that you open up, like at the post office. That will be built into that same wall, so, we won't have anything electronic go wrong with it again.
It will be growling anymore.
Correct. So, and we have, it was supposed to be delivered today, it did not get delivered, so I'm hoping tomorrow it will be delivered. And then, Mike Sexton will be coming to take out the old one, because he built the wall around the first one, so he'll be coming and removing that and they can do the rest.
Okay. Any questions for Stacy? Okay, let's move on to electrical. Mike Myers.
I have nothing. Do you have anything for me? Thank you.
Water, Chris.
Finishing up lead and copper testing. We basically have the results, waiting for them to be verified. We'll send them out. Letters to all the homeowners probably within the next week or so. Water main installation has began at South Ridge. And the meter guys are approximately over half of the meter guys GPS. And then with the addition of the new handheld unit function.
Questions for Chris? Reminder that the public hearing for water rate the ordinance is next Monday night at the library. And hopefully we can make that next step next week. Wastewater.
There's still routine maintenance. Going did the form set, report slab for the, new water building. And we installed three on this week. And they started the installation on the 97th clarifier.
Question. Okay. Mike, how you get along with those people out there?
Just fine. Where's our meeting tomorrow?
With that.
The plan. 3?
3:30.
Got it.
Yeah, sewer maintenance.
Yeah, we've been cleaning the southwest part of town and smoke test over on Gar Mill section, it goes into that big main, it goes to the plant that we've been looking at for enforcement and found 5 homeowners, cleanup cabinets, holes drilled in it, and drain their yard. I remember any day we caught the manhole in that line coming from the south, the whole time. These are the houses that's on that line.
I contacted all of you, all of the board members about an emergency purchase that had to be made for a computer. And that was authorized now, so, and I hopefully it's on order and be here soon.
Shane and I talked that last week. We got that going. Appreciate that. It's 10-year old.
And actually, after, when you guys approved that, and, got it on order, it actually, came in what, $3,000 less?
Yeah. 2950.
2950 less.
Great.
This one in the camera truck. You said it's 10 years old. 2010.
There was a situation where it was, even if the hadn't been replaced, it was going to have some significant modifications because of the demand of the new software.
It wouldn't come on if he couldn't get it come on. We couldn't get it come on in the truck, and then he came, pulled the rack down, and I brought out here, and we get on, and tried it three times in one day, and that's where it went home. I'll just try it again, but after the moment. We have used it twice since. I'm surprised it got stuff on. That's got solid state, yeah, drive, that helps. A lot of them won't drive, there's like one guy that will drive with it on the rest of them shut it down. But from them, they're saying you can drive. So I have solid state basically. And then
Any other question?
I have another thing, like Henley Avenue doesn't have storm sewer from Boomer to Short Myrtle. And then from the warehouse back east, I'm doing a profile on that, but in the storm sewer there. And we spent a lot of storm this year. So we'll have to really see what that's gonna cost. We have some, most of the time. So just be done when we have to get.
Rick, anything from the lagoon?
Yeah, right.
General manager.
Couple things. Rick had asked earlier, before the meeting about, how long our contract goes with this one. And they want to come to the second meeting in September to discuss the length of that and extending it. So, yes, they will be, I got them on the agenda for the second meeting, or the second meeting in September.
Beyond what date?
2042. Okay. I can give you a heads up on what it is. It's 2042 with a 30 years notice of cancellation is what they want. And they presented this to the mayor and I, the mayor and myself. I told them, my opinion, there's going to be no way, but I'm not voting for it. So anyway, they will be here for presentation on that day.
Todd, is that what they talked to us about previously, like way back in January, February? I think he came.
He actually, they came before, it was later in the year.
Last year?
Yeah.
Is this
And
the
then they
same
sent out some literature and stuff on it, and, you know, and it just kind of fell to the wayside and all this other stuff. Now that they can get out and see people, that's what they're trying to do.
But it is the same.
Who would be the same story for that? The mayor?
I can't answer that for you, Rick. I don't know. We have to, I don't know who would be
I don't know who
the
they have to put up.
board's recommendation with the resolution of the council.
I don't know, maybe a moot point.
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely wanting to talk to you all. But I do think that they may have met with Les previously about this. They sent me. Have it with me. Yeah, the last one was between IMPA and the mayor.
What year was that?
Well, this one was,
Probably 75.
Or 75?
I don't know, it doesn't seem to be dated.
I think it should have been around 81 or 83, somewhere in there.
It was, Mary Jane McMahon. Is that one, and then they said, they gave me
She was at-
Draft.
Right.
previously that
That's what
was that.
Mary Jane.
But yeah, it would be signed by the mayor.
Well, that's who it was then, because they didn't have utilities.
Correct.
Right. So what they've got now, what they've sent us draft wise, so this would be an amendment to the agreement. Is what they're trying to do. And I think they still have it set up so that it'd be signed by the mayor, because it would be an ordinance. Not, they want to do an ordinance, not just a resolution.
What do they want?
They
They
want,
want to have 8 more years of contract with a 30-year notice of cancellation instead of 10 years.
And what do we contract with this for that, so what do we get?
we get
You
nothing.
pay a big electric bill.
My understanding,
Why waste our time? Why don't you just tell them what I am?
I can do that.
well,
And I basically
basically what they want is they want us to do a resolution recommending this to the council, and then the council would do an ordinance. But the reason that they want it, from my recollection, and this is pulling from last year apparently, when they sat down and talked to me about it, it's because it makes them able to have better credit if they have longer contracts, and then they can utilize their credit to get more clean energy resources and provide better service to all of their clients. Is
Right,
my
well,
understanding. That's
Ross
a
Rowan
summary.
has the best credit rating for the standard portion. Yeah, he wants that, what is it, an 8 triple plus or triple A plus or whatever it is, that's what he's doing.
Listen, I'd like you to, along the rest of the board members, I want people to look into the legality. Because my understanding is that when we probably want to storm, that kind of stuff, that we pass by on, is not required of the city.
I couldn't hear the last part. What?
Is not required of their city.
I can look into it. If they're wanting to do an ordinance, though, that would be the city council.
I don't care what they want.
Okay,
To be
I'll,
quite frank with you, it's us that control that, the person not control.
I will check the statute.
But if the board doesn't want to hear, then all the board has to develop the practice. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all.
I mean,
It's
they're saying
ridiculous.
we're not getting nothing.
No, it's ridiculous.
All they want is, they want a 30-year cancellation. They're gonna extend what you made year, go to 2050, so now
You have to cancel that.
now you have to cancel it
You
now.
have to cancel it right now. Right now, it's the same year.
And they wanna come in and take 100,000 off of each month's electric bill.
Yeah.
Now we might.
That's what I've seen there at headquarters, I mean, you're talking hall.
Which one? They got two of them.
Okay. It's bigger, but, I see where their money's going.
Before we get all at odds with him, but do we have alternative options should they desire not to renew our contract?
Do.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we had
I mean, it's an
alternatives
option.
before we, you know,
You have until 2042.
hey, I just wanted to bring it up.
Should early.
We can recommend a resolution to not extend it.
The other thing I have is that I've been spending several hours a week, and over 3 today, discussing the Frito-Lay agreement on water usage that we have right now. We were making progress, so we hit some bumps in the road, and then we started making progress again today. They want a long-term deal, and they wanted us to get into a long-term deal with guarantees of no more big rate increases, which we told them, hey, today, Andrew Lamb and I was on the phone, and just told them that it wasn't going to work for us, because we can't predict that we'll just finish out the contract that we have, see where it goes in another 9 to 10 years, and they kind of did an about phase, and they want to work on something to present it to us and then to the board, with where they want to go, and today was a lot better meeting than what we have been having with them, but we are still making progress at this point in time. I think it'll all go out in the wash. They have threatened, they put a idle threat out there that they could go into the water recovery system. But, more we found out, did some research, and Chris Hinton did some research today. I'm not sure that it would work here, even, they're still talking a lot of water and wastewater, plant and everything else in Arizona. But, they really came around to that, so hopefully we're gonna get there, we'll have something to present sometime in September with where we're at with the argument. But Andrew's been crunching numbers for us like crazy, and he just told me today that what they wanted wasn't gonna work. And so but they're good with the rate increase that we have right now. They're understanding, you know, where we're at. It's just they want to look out for another 10 years after where we're at. We get back to 20-year agreement with them, and then we might go back to the self-standard. So we're getting it. It's a chore, but we're getting it. You know, two things, obviously, I think. That's one of them is Eric Woods made mention last when we presented the water rate increase. Rita Lake's getting the same rate increase. Yep. You know, we guarantee they will. But, you know, the last 5, 6 years, maybe longer, the water department has lost money on the water that they're giving Rita Lake. I agree. And so that can't happen. But if you look at the existing contract, there's a clause in there that we should have been charging for our cost to produce water, and that was never followed. Correct. Previous boards, previous leadership out there. Correct. And so the only thing that was followed was the CPI adjustment and not the cost of water adjustment at the same time. And so, you know, those things, you know, I'm not in much of giving a bunch of increase to a degree. Right. And I don't think so much as breaks. Can't they just want to, they're looking for something comforting that they're not going to see another 50% increase 10 years down the road. They're still willing to do their CPI adjustments every year. That's been covered. It's just that they're just looking from their end. You know, would we do a 50% or we don't know. We don't know what the situation. We don't know what the future's going to bring. And that's what we talked about today to kind of settle things down. You know, we don't know if the EPA is going to come in with new regulations. And that's some of the stuff that we discussed. We're going to put it into some documentation. So we kind of covered. We covered a lot of it today. So it's not that they're now that they're asking for anything special other than something a little more comfortable than this last one, where in the contract the maximum that we could have wanted them was 64%. And there's no way they could fight it in the contract. I mean, that's really where they're stuck at right now. They don't see 50%. And I don't think anybody here wants to see 50% like what we're doing now. So we're working closer to much better today.
Yeah. Any other questions for Glenn? All right. Claims.
I'll move to accept claims.
Motion by Ken, a second by Joe, to approve claims presented. Roll call. Mike Reeder. Aye. Rick Duggan. Aye. Joe Reed. Aye. Ken Brewer. Aye. Mike Kelly. Aye. Okay. Alicia had the papers. Your center was on overtime tonight.
Real briefly, the first thing is this doesn't need any action. You last meeting authorized this. I took our resolution regarding the face mask policy and I put it into policy form with an employee acknowledgement. So essentially it's the same thing as our resolution, except it is in a policy format. and has a violation. Anybody who violates this is subject to disciplinary actions of the employee handbook. So I just wanted to pass that out. And I put at the top that it was effective August 3rd because that is when we voted on the resolution for that.
That was Tuesday.
That is for the employee to sign, and then this should be put in their file. So acknowledging that they received the policy, they give it back to Todd, Todd puts it in their file, or whomever the department.
Personnel file.
Yes. Yep.
We want to get you down to everybody, that what we want to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then have them all sign and put it in their personnel file.
okay.
The second thing, and this doesn't necessarily need any action either, I had drafted, Rick asked me to draft a waiver, liability waiver for anybody who volunteered at the lagoon. So I did do that, and so this is the waiver that someone would need to utilize before they were able to volunteer. So that way we don't get liability from someone getting hurt while they're volunteering. And Rick didn't have any issues with it, so, but I did just want to let you all know, if you want to vote on it and adopt it, you can, but I don't know that that's necessary.
I'm happy either way. For more information, I will mention that the prior liability waiver was one page. It was to be received by Jim Shire at the time. And there was no signature on our end to acknowledge the waiver. This is much better. It may actually have the effect of reducing or eliminating volunteers, but that's okay. And I might add, I've already had one person volunteer to repair the roof on one of the pagodas. And then he learned that he would need to sign a liability waiver, he probably disappeared. So, still, we don't want people out there without a liability waiver being signed. So I'm in favor of this, however the board would like to proceed.
Need this in the minutes of,
That, yes, we can
Either
adopt
by
it.
consensus or by voting, how do you want to do it?
Let's take this, he has made a recommendation as a representative of that group.
More motion,
Actually, we don't have to have a motion. You made a recommendation for the board to approve. And so we'll just do more.
Joe Root, Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Rick Kenyon.
Aye.
Kit Brewer. Mike Kelly.
Aye. Old business, any old business? We did a lot of old business tonight. Any new business? Motion for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Stacy, I have something. I get you first.
I'll be out about 3 tomorrow. And then here,
Is this for Aaron?
Yeah.
Wait,
here after
sign
8
on.
o'clock.
South Side, Burroughs House.
Oh, yeah.
Can you put that in, I'll send you address and everything, put that into my, right, or my, my 10 minute.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay, yeah. You have to put that in there. If you're not sending me. Yay!
You'll be fine.
I don't know what I'm gonna talk about.
I don't buy it.
Well, I hope you're a good leader.
Yes. Yes.
I'm in my element on the radio.
I know you guys started to do
I don't think so. I was going to be a journalist, and then I decided to go into law. So I don't think they're gonna hold me back into
the transfer
I said, then I don't have it. And then you know all the time. I said,
That's fine.
But, what I
Text me and then everybody signed up for her. He's gonna keep me.
basically, I told him, so I can help him. I don't know if she's.
For everybody, you guys
And then if someone doesn't show up,
I think.
a spreadsheet or something for all of the mail, and you can say, here's our appointments, we're starting this, and here's what they have, document, and then, for example, one of the
So I
things
think
that shows, I put in here that if we need to give them more time to document, so what, we need to go get documentation on that, and then continue it. We don't have that day. So that one day, and I was just having.
Keep going, right? I'm gonna go see him tomorrow morning.
And then they just come up with me to tell you. And then you can, you'll go through and you'll just tell them kind of like what's gonna happen. So you're gonna get it to the person, that ask questions, and go through what this is, and then, I try to make it, but then I make it. It's pretty, I was trying to get a time where I'm like, okay, so they have to make us connected 2 days before they need to let us know. Then we need to give them at least 2 days. So I'm like, okay, so we're already extending your disconnect out. Then I need to give them this, and so I'm like, okay, we're looking at about 2 weeks of an extension. And some people only want, we already give them a extension, but they want to, and so I'm almost like, we just give them an extension instead of. I mean, no, panel process, the thing with panel is that I didn't want them to show up on day that they're not expect the panel that you all pre-inferred and you just show up. So that's why I want 48 hours deadline. Because they need to have some responsibility and they need to ask for it.
Letting that.
Okay, so if they have some point
We could have started
and we disconnect.
a couple of days ago.
Bring it into our.
We decided we had 30 days.
I mean, then they can turn around and, but
Get things ready.
if they set
Give
up a
them a
payment
warning
plan,
that this is coming.
that's when they
They
get a
can
payment.
start planning.
So when they
you
set up a
need to make
payment
sure
plan,
that you get
I would
contact with
tell
the
them,
state office.
and maybe you just give them a copy of this, when they set up a payment plan, here's what happened.
People are